All right. Today we got Dominic and Lionel on the show. How you guys doing?
Good, Tony. Thank you.
Good.
I'm glad you guys are here. You guys are out there in California, and you had mentioned about this ranch that you guys want to talk about. And it's not far from Joshua Tree, which just doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you. There's a lot of weird things that happen out there in the desert, and it seems like you guys can concur that that is something that has been your experience as well. Before we get into the topics and stuff of the day, because basically, Dominic, you were raised on this ranch. Then Lionel, you came along and were living on the ranch. You guys experienced a lot of paranormal things, a lot of weird things. Seems like some of the stuff might have been skinwalker stuff. But before we get into all that stuff, just let people know where they can find you and stuff. You guys have your own podcast going.
Yes, you could find us on Spotify and I believe it's Apple Podcasts. Our name of our podcast is The Sabbath at Midnight. And we're also on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Same name, Sabbath at Midnight. And we're also on YouTube, Sabbath at Midnight. Yep. Those are all our little links.
Awesome. Well, people can definitely go check it out, and we will put the links in the description of this episode if Jack remembers. If not, just shoot me an email and we'll add it. So I appreciate you guys being on the show, and this conversation I'm looking forward to having. Now, I guess we'll start with Dominic, because Dominic is the one that it all started with in his life. Dom, I'm going to let you kind of take the reins on this and start sharing about these experiences you had on the ranch. And I guess you start back as early as you can remember as far as what your first experience was.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. It's an honor to be on. Let's go back. Let's precede the ranch by several years, kind of frame this. When I was a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old or toddler, we lived out in a place called Escondido, and this is near San Diego, California. My first paranormal experience was sitting in back of an El Camino with my siblings, and it had a camper shell on it, 1970 El Camino. And out of the sliding glass little door on the shell, I saw something that could only resembled like a flying refrigerator. I mean, mind you, I've never seen a UFO, had no concept of UFO, had nothing. I've never seen anything like that before. And I always remembered that. I told my siblings, look, there's a flying refrigerator. And they just laughed like, okay, whatever, right? But this was the first cube, the first and only cube I've ever seen in my life. And I still remember it. It had, it looked like it had little blinking lights on it. I don't know if they were red or green. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was a cube. So from Escondido, California, we moved to Palm Desert, California. Okay. This time I was maybe 5, 6 years old, and my mom was really a devout Christian. She was going to prayer meetings, and I started going with her as a young kid. I still remember all these things, prayer meetings, all this stuff, and having a mind of a child. Like the Bible says, have a mind of a child. So I was going to these prayer meetings, really believing in this stuff and getting with Christ. And one day out in the backyard, there was a black cat. It was mauling a little bird, like a little swallow or something. And I shooed the cat away, and I picked up the bird, and it had a big old hole in its chest. You could see all the flesh. It was dead. And my mom was like, you know what? Why don't we pray for this? Why don't we pray for it? And, I had this mindset that, this, through Christ, this could be done. Have a mind, there was a mind of a child, didn't know anything else. So I put the bird in my hands, and we started praying for it. And I just pictured what I thought what Christ looked like in my mind. And I prayed. And my mom says, look, open your eyes. And I looked, and the flesh was just closing up, slowly closing up. And then feathers grew back, and the bird just flew out of my hand. That was a trip. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. That was very impactful. And from this point on, we moved from Palm Desert out to a place called Bermuda Dunes. And this is out in the middle of nowhere, the desert. There's no other, the nearest neighbor is probably 5 acres away at this time. So there was, in the beginning, I don't remember anything really weird. I'd go out and I would scout the desert as a kid, and I find a lot of seashells out there in the desert. I started finding pottery. I guess it was Native American. Scorched earth underneath the sand, all black burned. Texture. A lot of arrowheads and bones. Now, I don't know if these are human or not, but I'm not even going to get into that. But there were bones out there. And it seems that after we brought these artifacts into the home, that's when things started amping up. Things started getting really weird out there. We started to hear something out there that sounded like a cross between a chicken, a goat, and a woman screaming. And this went on for as long as we lived out there, from this time forward. And I would hear this. Mind you, we lived on a hilltop, and below the hill, all the brush was cleared out. So there's nothing can hide behind these. There's nothing to hide behind. Coyotes, nothing. There's no bushes out there. There's no shrubbery. Everything was cleared out. And we lived on a hill, so we had a good 360 view. So when this noise would come, it would sound like it was 20 feet from the back door. And we lived in a modular home. And at this time, I was probably maybe 16, 17, 18 years old, around that time. And I come out with the shotgun because my dogs were all being cowering at the back door or the front door. Pit bulls, German shepherds, boxers. So I got the shotgun on the spotlight, and the scandal, because dude, this sound was creepy. It wasn't just a sound that you heard through your ears. It was the sound that went through your soul, went through your being. Spotlight, check the desert. Nothing, not a thing. As soon as I close that door, it's 20 feet behind that back door again. I couldn't see. There's nothing out there. Other times, I would hear it coming from a distance down a dirt road, making this shrieking sound. I think Michael Heiser defined it the best. He called it the howler, the screech owl or something. And so this thing would walk down the dirt road, across the street into the orchards, making this horrific sound. And I would just blast away with the shotgun. There's nothing out there. I'm not going to hit anyone. This is, a long time ago. And this went on and on and on. There was noises on the rooftop, footsteps. It got even worse when I don't know if it's the same entity or not, but when when her mother passed away, we were sitting in the living room, and we heard this snorting sound.
I was there. I was there that day, by the way.
And he was a lot younger. He was a small kid. And sitting, you got the windows behind me in the living room. Hear this large snoring sound. I mean, because by the sound of the nasal cavity, it was big. You can hear it just coming, walking, boom, boom, and on the patio, cement patio. And the door rattles. Door's rattling. Like, I look at her like, "Do you hear that?" Yeah. So what the heck is that? And I'm just frozen there, dude, for a while. This thing was rattling the door. And so I it's still impactful to this day. So I got the strength and I got up. I grabbed my gun. I went outside and there was nothing. There's nothing around the home. And this thing. Now, I don't think it was the same entity. I think it was something else. I think it was something that's jumping from kin. But something about that, about that property. I don't know if it was a burial ground. I don't know if there were ritual sacrifices there. But you have some kind of screeching creature out there going on. You got this giant thing, whatever, walking on the front patio, rattling the door, trying to get in the house. I mean, it could have broke the door. Maybe something was restraining it. Maybe an angel was restraining it. I don't know. And a lot of half rabbits I found out there. No blood. No coyote tracks. UFOs. Orbs. Take photo. Back then we only had, I think we used like Polaroid or something. And all these old pictures I have, you can see the orbs. There's orbs everywhere. And I never, Tony, I never knew about orbs until I started getting to these shows like, many years ago. I thought it was always dust particles. There's a bunch of orbs there, just everywhere. And what are orbs? Are they spirits? Are they transdimensional entities? I don't know. But this place was so charged. There were light beams seen out there. There was going further into time. Lionel, he's got other experiences out there. There was I had pet bulls, and once there was let me back up. Okay, so this has something to do with the desert. So during my younger years, I'm going to backtrack. My aunt and uncle lived in a place called Thermal. I don't know if it's a family thing or not. I don't know if it follows the bloodline or something. Something strange is going on out there. So at this time, I was probably maybe 8 or 9 years old. And we go to this old home, this ranch, this out in the middle of, out in the middle of the desert, agriculture. And I remember seeing, they go, look, and around the house, the soil was like a powdery clay. So it's really easy to make an impression. And there were footprints all over the house. Some were like little kids. Some were adult. Some were club-footed. Some were missing toes. And the one that freaked me out as a kid was a hoof print. It was 2 legs, hoof prints, going towards a barn. And my aunt and uncle always said they heard the lechuza or la lirona.
La trusa.
They say the lady in white.
Yeah.
So this owl, they say that, and so many, I guess in Hispanic lore, they say it's a witch, a shapeshifter. So my uncle shot it. And he said it was a big owl. And so when they opened the chest up, they burned it. It was screaming like a woman.
And the eyes were changing colors. The eyes were changing colors too.
Yeah. So it had human hair inside of it. The eyes were flickering different colors. And this goes back to me now, coming back from a club. I was probably 21 at this time. Coming around a bend. There's no street lights back at this time. It's just open desert, just darkness. And then right in the middle of the road, dude, there was a giant owl just perched right there. It had to be at least 5 foot tall. I'm not even joking. There's a huge owl staring at me. Now that I have more knowledge about this, was this an entity that was putting a screen memory in me? I don't know. But I punched it, and I tried to hit it, and it was gone. And when my parents, I think they went on a Las Vegas trip once, and they left me on the ranch on my own. And I think probably Lionel was with his mom. I don't know, but I know I was alone at the ranch. And we had these giant tamas trees in the corner of the property. And I was hearing these noises, and I go outside, and there's like a army of these owls perched on the tamas tree. There's a massive amount of them. And I got really scared. So I go inside, I get the shotgun, I get the 9mm. I'm going to war, man. So I'm blasting away, and nothing. These things don't even move. A shotgun blast would scare, most animals, most predators away. These things are still there. And I don't remember what happened after that. All I don't remember seeing those owls that were there. And then nothing. I don't remember what happened after that. All I remember just seeing a bunch of smoke everywhere from the discharging of the shotgun and the gun. And I don't remember anything after that. And sleep paralysis, I would see in the home, first you hear the ringing in your ear, and then you feel something's coming, and then you can't move. I look down the hallway, and there's a dark figure there. I mean, a dark figure in the dark, darker than dark. Makes no sense, but you can see something darker than the darkness of night. That happened on more than one occasion. And it got to the point where what really freaked me out is one of these sleep paralysis episodes when I was being lifted feet first into the air. That one scared me. I felt like something was trying to suck me through the ceiling. I was like, what is going on here? It got really bad out there. I would notice scratch marks on my back where I can't reach. Like, how am I going to do that? And there was a point where I don't know if it had to do with heavy metal music, like Iron Maiden. They have that 666 Number of the Beast song and all that stuff. I don't know, because I was really into rock and roll back then. I was an 80s guy. I remember once my face was turning green. I don't know if it had something to do with the ranch or not. But after that episode, I destroyed all those cassette tapes, all the heavy metal stuff. I destroyed everything. Because this goes back to my relatives. See, once again, the bloodline. When they had episodes, I remember vividly my cousin, he's now deceased, they had a similar story where his face was turning green. And it has something probably with I don't know if it's a demon coming over you, or trying to mimic you, or trying to just take your face. I don't know. I can't explain it. Then you go way back to my brothers before I was around, living in a place called Indio, which is down the street from us. They call it Indio because Indio means Indian. This is all native land. So this home they lived in, my parents, this is before Palm Desert, before Escondido, is an old house. My two brothers saw a headless man, because they would do this. My brothers would do this to my mom at night, flicking thumbs. I guess it's some kind of, I don't know, relaxation or something. And they were doing that. My brother's doing this to he thought it was my mom. And when he turned around, he says, there was a guy like this. It was going like this, but it had no head. And they both saw this. And in the kitchen, there was something going on, and there were little people in there. I said, what did it look like? He says, they looked like leprechauns. Oh, no way. Come on, man. He goes, no. He goes, me and your brother both, and they both told me the story. There were little people in the kitchen doing mischievous things, and they were just having a good old time. Now, I know the Native Americans have a name for these little people. I don't remember what it is. But there were little people in the kitchen. There was a voodoo doll found on that property. There was things that sound like a bowling ball on the rooftops, probably rolling ahead. I don't know. Then my uncle, in that same area, in that same house, I remember Mom telling me he came home as white as a ghost because something was chasing him across the desert that had a black cape with red inside, like glowing red. Same thing happened to my dad in El Centro. He told me a story about a man with a top hat that was coming after him with the cape with really red inside. So, this goes back to the family thing. They say a lot of people who have some Native American bloodline in them are susceptible to this. And we have a little bit of Yaqui from my mom's side. Now, when I looked into that, I I read into Gary Wayne's book, and he talked about one of his chapters. He quoted somebody, a Jesuit, saying that the Olmecs believed that the Olmecs are Yaqui, and they believe that they came from the priests of Atlantis. I don't know if any of that's true, but I think that for some reason the Native Americans, if you have Native American blood or some kind of ethnic blood in you, they're attracted to you. Because eventually in the end, we're all mixed with something. And so going from there, we go back to the ranch, and this is where Lionel can jump into it, because there was something that happened out there to my pet bull. I found it sucked all of its fluids, and Lionel will tell you why.
Go ahead, Lionel.
Oh yeah. So, well, I saw the dog too, but I have a friend, a good friend of mine from all the way from first grade to high school. When he was our neighbor, he probably lived about 5 acres away. Because where we lived, we had a couple neighbors, but everybody was like far away from me. Everybody had like a little ranch pretty much, and his name was Joel. And anyways, one day he told me a story. Well, he told us a story that him, his 3 brothers, and one of his brother's girlfriends. So there's 5 of them in the car, and I remember the kind of car that they had. They had one of those big old, those Oldsmobiles with the big seat. So there's like 4 in the front, sitting in the front, and then Joel was just in the back. And they were out late at night. There used to be this little store called the Apple Market, and that was like the only store that was out there to get snacks and sodas and all, all that sugar stuff that kids like. So he was coming back from the store with his brothers and the girlfriend, and there's a 4-way stop where we lived, and on one of those corners of the 4-way stop sign, there's our ranch. Bam, right here. And he's coming this way. The ranch is over here, and for him to get home, he has to drive across the 4-way stop sign and go past us to get home. But as they're pulling up to the stop sign, they have, their headlights on. And mind you, it's pitch black out there. There's no street lights. There's no light pollution at this time. I mean, the sky at night is purple because the Milky Way is beautiful. Like, it looks purple and red. That's how clear the sky is at night. So as they're pulling up to the stop sign, they're probably about, 50 feet away as they're pulling up, and they see the stop sign. The stop sign's about 12, 13 feet high. And the headlights, they see next to the stop sign, just these 2 little skinny legs, right, as they're pulling up. And they're like, what the heck is that, And as they get closer, it's a 4-way stop, so they're here. The other stop sign's here, and this thing is standing next to it, and they're all tripping out. And at this point, all the headlights are hitting it, and it just looks like a gray alien kind of thing, but really, really skinny, like abnormally skinny, as they all said. And now that you think about it, the funny thing is, I trained the girlfriend that was there. She became one of my clients like 3 years ago, and I brought that up again, and she's still terrified. But so they saw this skinny thing, and they were just freaking out, and they didn't want to drive. They had to drive past this thing to get home, so none of them wanted to drive past it. So they had to get home, so they punch it, they drive past it, and they all get a quick look at it, and they pass it up, and then for some reason the oldest brother, Rudy, Rudy's like a little adventure guy. He's like, let's turn around and go back and see what it is. It's probably just someone messing with us. He's probably like someone probably made it, because it wasn't moving. It was just stiff, like just a skinny stick figure that looked like an alien gray with a big old bulb head. Just, it wasn't moving. So they do a U-turn. So on the way back, if you were looking at this thing, you'd be looking at it from the passenger side now. So Joel gets to this side, and everybody's trying to see what it is, and they're looking under, and they said this thing was like all black, and it was really scaly and like juicy, like it had just like this layer of slime all over it, and it wasn't moving. And they said in a split second, the thing just bam, it just looked down at them, and it had these big black almond eyes. It had a gray stripe where the eyes would be at, and they were absolutely terrified. All this happened, like, I guess they said this all happened like in a minute or less. The thing looked at him. So when it looked at him, like imagine like RoboCop, the head turns and then the shoulders turn with it after. And it's just looking at them, and they're freaking out, and the thing starts vibrating. Like it's vibrating, and the dust is starting to pick up. So to me, that means it was a physical creature, because it was picking up dust. So imagine something standing still and it's just vibrating. It's not bending its arms or nothing. And the thing looked at them and it turned its head like that again, turns its shoulders to face the desert, our backyard where we live. And it didn't run, he said. He said it just, like, imagine like a statue standing still and just went, like it just zoomed off. Like it didn't stride, nothing. It just went, vibrated and went bam. And the dust picked up, they said, and it went all the way out to our backyard. And they said it turned into a little green light and shot up in the sky. And then coincidentally, when we heard that story, it happened to be the night before we found the pit bull that was sucked dry on the same corner. The pit bull was dead we found it where the stop sign was at, where the creature was at. So yeah, that was that. So they call it the Jiggly Man. That's the nickname they gave it because it was, vibrating and stuff. So yeah, Dominic, go ahead. Go ahead, Dominic.
Well, yeah. I want to say like that reminds me of I forget what TV show it was long time ago. I shouldn't say too long ago. It's on Netflix. I think it was The Flash. I think it was the TV show The Flash. One of the characters, I think it might have been even a villain in that movie, vibrates real hard back and forth.
That black-looking Flash guy? I think you're talking about.
No. I think it was. I forget which character it was. I just have this mental image of one of the characters flashing back and forth really fast. But it wasn't. It was like a bad guy.
Yeah.
So it's the same spot. You see that at the same spot that the day before you saw. You found the dog. Which, Dominic, this was your dog, and the blood was basically sucked out of the body.
Dry.
Yeah, it was just.
I saw it too. Bones. I saw the dog too. I mean, we had a lot of dogs on the ranch, and they were like our little protectors for our property and the little crops that we had. And we also had people try to steal copper once in a while and stuff like that. My grandpa was a painter, so people would come and try to do shady stuff. So these dogs were like our little brothers. So when the dog died, everybody went, because it was me and my dad and my grandpa. My grandma like, Coco. I think it was Coco, right? Coco died. It was Coco. And it was like, Coco's dead. And I saw it and I was like, what? Like, where's all the blood at? It looked like it had been dead for like a week, but it was just like, it was dead less than a day. And that's what happened with that.
Well, what you're talking about sounds a lot like cattle mutilations.
Yeah.
What has there been any reports of cattle mutilations in that area?
I'm not too. You would know more, Dominic. I was a kid. What about our neighbor? No.
No, he never said anything about it. But a lot of half rabbits out there.
And so, really quick, there was we had another neighbor behind us. He lived on a hilltop too, of all things. Fabian, remember Fabian?
Yeah.
And I remember when they moved out of their mobile home and their property. I don't know if they sold it, but they just moved out, and they had a mobile home and a trailer, an abandoned trailer and a mobile home on the property. And me and my cousin were just being nosy. We were probably like 10, 11 years old. We went over there just to see what was inside. And when we walked into the trailer, we opened up the trailer door. And it was like a movie, man. Like a stack of magazines just fell out, like just as if the magazines were stacked up 4 feet high against the door. Bam! All these magazines fell out. Well, what the heck? And we're looking in, and there's about 2 feet of there had to have been over 100,000 magazines for the whole place to be like this high of magazines all over the floor, like everywhere. The bathroom, the kitchen, the bed. You cannot go in there without stepping on a magazine. There's so many magazines, People magazines, Motor Trend, whatever, just regular magazines. And I started looking at it, and then it just started, I picked one up and I noticed that the magazine had in Sharpie, 666 on it. And I opened the next page, 666, the next page. So I'm picking up all these magazines, and every single magazine that me and my cousin picked up, we probably picked up about 50 of them just to make sure we weren't crazy. Every single magazine on every single page had 666 on it. Someone did it with a Sharpie. So someone took a lot of time out of their day there had to have been over like 100,000 magazines in this. I'm telling you, it was stacked. Like it was like a flood of magazines, and every single magazine on every single page has 666 on it. So I thought that was very interesting. And I also found a black owl statue, like a little black one. And me and my cousin broke it, and there was human hair in it. I'm 10, 11 years old. I have no idea what this stuff is. I thought I was just finding some weird stuff. But, I mean, that could have been part of part of all that stuff. Maybe they're doing some witchcraft. I mean, God knows what they were doing, but they're obviously doing something, because for someone to take the time to put 666 on all the magazines, I'm pretty sure they were dabbling in some weird stuff. So
yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think maybe. Like maybe they're
I'm
doing
trying to be
something
nice.
sketchy. I don't know.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, no. And so, I mean, the fact that you found the human hair, that kind of goes along with what Dominic said earlier about finding. You said that you found a voodoo doll, right?
Yeah, they found a voodoo doll with. They think it was my uncle. It had like pins and needles in it. It was human hair though.
But also the owl that our uncle shot, when they shot it, it had no organs. It was a living owl. He shot when he shot it and looked at the bullet wound. It had no organs. It was filled with human hair.
What?
Yeah, the owl. Yeah, you didn't get to that part. He forgot to say that part. Remember, we said he shot an owl and the eyes were changing colors. He forgot to mention that the entire insides. There's no organs. It was just human hair. So this thing was somehow living off no organs.
So what is that?
So you mentioned that, but I was assuming there was organs inside. So you're saying there were no organs inside, just human hair.
Just human hair, no blood, nothing.
And the eyes were flashing. So
like, was screaming like a woman.
So it was still alive.
Yeah.
When they were burning it, yeah. After they shot it, when they burned it started screaming like a woman. And it's just hair inside of it, just human hair. Well,
I don't,
what do you make of that?
You can't make this stuff up.
Nah, and then you couple that with the lady in white and the crying lady around the place, and footsteps and hoof prints, and dude, I don't know what's going on out there.
I mean, I got a lot of stories whenever you guys are ready to hear mine. I got crazy.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for them. I wanted to before we dive into your stories.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this happened. The owl that we were just talking about happened in Thermal, California, right? Okay.
Correct.
And so when you said that, I looked it up how far it was from Joshua Tree. It wasn't too far. And what you're describing sounds like you said, a witch, shapeshifter, skinwalker. But it sounds like the owl that was burned was some kind of a witch or something.
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm really interested to hear what other people have to say about this, because the owls seem to really be popping up a lot with you guys on this story.
Yeah.
And I know my friend Ward, he's my cameraman for my documentaries. He really knows a lot about the owls and the symbology with it. And so I'm definitely interested to hear what he has to say about that. But before you go into any of your other stories, when you were a kid and you heard, I guess it was like the huffing or the sniffing around the door, and I think you said the doorknob was jiggling. Yeah. Like, clearly that is something that whatever it was could have probably gotten in the house, right? So there's probably some kind of rules of operation that this kind of stuff operates with. This is me talking. This is my assumptions with things. I hear people talk about, these creatures coming up to their doors, or, escorting them out of the woods. Like they're being paralleled, or, things like that. And to me, I'm like, well, certainly these things could get you if they wanted to get you, but they're not. So why are they not getting you? Yeah. Because we hear stories that will leave you with no other conclusion other than these things are not good. They're not nice, but then why are they killing you? And it makes me wonder if there's certain whether it's spiritual barriers or whatever that they can't cross. And I forget who I was talking to a while ago about, but we were theorizing this idea that, what if they have to wait for you to make the first move? And if you don't make that first move, they can't do anything. Maybe they're handcuffed right now on a spiritual level. They're handcuffed until the appointed time for them to, be let loose and go crazy on humanity. There's a lot of different ideas, but one thing's for sure is that if you are having these experiences, it doesn't make sense that it didn't come. It just seems like whatever it was. I mean, the way you described it, it sounds like it was probably something big. Is that the assumption you guys have?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was there. It wasn't just me. It was me, my dad, his ex, and my grandma, and my grandpa. We're all watching. I remember watching TV. We're all watching like a movie. We always like watch movies all the time on HBO on the satellite dish, and I just remember the same thing. Just boom, like this ugly like kind of noise, like. And it was just huffing and puffing, and boom, 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 boom. The door started shaking and banging, and I was like, I ain't gonna go over there. I was probably about 12 or 13 at the time. So,
man.
And I do think how you said, I agree how you say, kind of reminds me of that vampire thing. I also spoke to people who have these weird entities, and they just kind of hang out by the door, and they, as they would tell me that they wouldn't speak to the entity, but the entity will put a thought in their head that to invite me in. So maybe you're right. They need some kind of invitation in order to get past the barrier of God, or, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe an invitation or even a declaration of war on them. I mean, if you shoot at it, does that change the rules of engagement? I had a sketchy experience in the woods not too long ago where I had to pull my gun out, and I didn't even think about shooting because I couldn't see what was giving me the experience that I was having. But I wonder, like hindsight, I was like, man, I wonder, one, if I would have shot in that direction, if I would have hit something that my eyes couldn't see but was there, and then what would have happened if I would have shot it?
Yeah, no kidding.
So I'm gonna go back out there with my gun. I'm gonna start just shooting and see.
Get a big one. Get a big gun, man.
Yeah. I have. I carry. I didn't always do this, but now I carry a 10 millimeter on my hip when I'm out there in the woods, so it will punch a hole in something.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, I kind of opt for that over the AR now, because I think the AR, I question its effectiveness on these things. So, anyways, that's just my thoughts. But so yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that up before you start moving into your stories.
No problem.
I find it interesting that you were a kid, you had that experience with your dad, and I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning, but yeah, this is a father-son duo here.
Yes, sir.
So,
yep.
I just find it interesting. Was that your introduction to the weirdness on the property, or was there something further back that you remember?
Oh man, mine goes all the way back from when I was a kid, as far as I can remember. The first experience I had, I was like 5 years old. And if you want to, I'll get into it right now. Just let me.
Let's go.
So.
Let's go.
I would say the first experience.
Actually,
go ahead.
1 second. I logistical things. This is going to get cut out here. I was looking at your profile, Lionel, and it looks like your microphone is on the MacBook Air. If you click on the bottom of the screen where your microphone is, or if you hover over that button, is there an option to click on the Rodecaster?
No, not anymore. That's weird.
Okay, so it's just the MacBook mic.
I mean, it says that, but I'm using this. Does that matter? Because this is working.
It's not going. Is it going? Is that plugged directly into the computer?
This is plugged into the Rodecaster, and then I have a dangle that's plugged into the laptop.
So I'm thinking it's working on your end, but I don't think the website is actually reading the Rodecaster. I think it's using your micro. Tap on your computer, see where the microphone is. See if I can hear that.
Let me see one more time. Oh, it says right here the mic. Okay, well, no. See, my speaker is on the Rodecaster, but on the mic, it's grayed out for me to do another option.
Okay, no problem. I mean, it's not that you don't. It's not that you sound bad or anything. I just if I didn't address it, it was going to like ADHD me for the rest of the time. So I just wanted to.
No problem.
I just wanted to bring it up. So yeah, go ahead and get us into starting your childhood, 5 years old.
So I would say I was about 5 years old. Yeah, 5 years old, because we moved out of that apartment before I was 6. Or about 6. So anyways, I was 5 years old, and this is the first experience I ever had. I remember being woken up in the middle of the night by, I don't know what, just something woke me up. And the room I had as a kid in that apartment, this was in Bermuda Dunes, in these apartments, 2-story apartment. You know how most apartments you have those cheap closets where it's 2 big mirrors, like 2 sliding doors. Every apartment has one. So in my room, my bed is across the room from that mirror, and it's against the wall. So if I was laying down on my side, looking towards the mirror, you know, I can see my whole self laying down like this, looking at the mirror. And when I fell asleep on my side, facing the mirror. So when I woke up looking at myself in the mirror, laying down. And when I woke up, I just felt like something was dreadful in the room. And I, you know, opened my, you know, eyes are getting, my vision's getting clear. I'm barely waking up. And I look in the mirror, and there is like a rotting corpse under my bed, right? And I'm just freaking out. You know, I've never seen, you know, as a kid, I told my mom, I saw a skeleton, but now that I'm older, it was like a skeleton, but with flesh on still. So it was like a rotting corpse. I would just call it a rotting corpse. And I remember in the bed, like, I'm terrified. What the heck is under my bed? And then it starts moving, like, very slow, like it's trying to crawl out. And I look down to see what the heck, and there's nothing. Like, in reality, in the real world, there's nothing going on, but in the mirror, it's in the mirror, but it's not in the room with me, if that makes any sense. So I'm terrified. I'm like, what's going on? Like, am I tripping? Like, I see it in the mirror, but I don't see it when I look down at the bed. So this thing's already halfway out in the mirror. It's already almost about to be completely out under the bed. So I do this maneuver where I jump over nothing because it's not there, you know, in the room, but it's in the mirror, but I'm still trying to jump over this thing. And I run to my mom and dad's room screaming and crying and just begging for help. And I get in there, and my mom and dad are like, oh, you know, it's late. You're just having a bad dream. Go back to your room. I did not go back. I slept in the living room downstairs. And that was my first ever experience. That wasn't on the ranch. That was on that was like at the apartment. That was probably about maybe 2 miles away in a straight line that we lived at. And then after that is when we moved to the ranch. And that's when things started getting a little crazy.
Okay, so, before we get to the crazy, because that sounds crazy already. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And what you described is basically the mirror acted as a portal, a seeing portal into another realm, a mirror realm, a mirror universe. I believe my gut says, and this might be, well, I'll just take it for what it is. I think if you would have stayed there and watched this thing as it crawled out underneath the bed, and you look down the floor, it's not there, but it's in the mirror, I think you would have seen it come out of the mirror. Oh, I think that's probably what would have happened. Yeah. And so it's probably best you ran.
Yeah, I jumped over it. I jumped over the thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably what was going on there. You were seeing into something else, and it knew, and I think that's why it was coming. I think that these entities, they hover over people while they sleep. It probably wasn't your first interaction with it. It's just the only one you experience in your consciousness. Oh yeah, which is kind of scary to think about. But I think a lot of times people are having these experiences while they sleep. They have no idea it's happening. But I've talked to too many people now that have, for instance, this one guy that's going to be on the show in probably a few months. I recorded with him a long time ago, and we're finally getting around to airing the interview. I'm working on it now. But his first paranormal experience was waking up in a building that he was sleeping at that his friend's parents owned, and they were all sleeping over there. And he opened his eyes, and there's this entity hovering over his friend. Oh, wow. And he acknowledged it. He's like, "What the?" And it turned, looked at him, like came up into his face and like hissed at him or something like that, and it went out the window. And I think these kind of things happen a lot to people while they sleep, and they have no idea it's happening because they're sleeping. And so I feel comfortable telling you that now because it's not something that happened to you recently. Yeah. You were 5, so.
No, yeah, but, absolutely. It was a trip.
That's my initial interpretation on that. I was going to forget if I didn't say it. So go ahead and take it away. Take us to the ranch.
So we go to the ranch, and like I said, I had to been 6 years old for the next one because we just had moved out of the apartment. So this is very important to me because it's very interesting. So I remember one of the first nights I stayed at the ranch, I had what I remember, my first nightmare. I mean, I don't remember a lot of things when I was that age, but I do remember this nightmare for some reason to this day. You know, when you have a dream, you forget about it in 2-3 days, but this dream I still remember to this day. So one of the first nights I spent the night at the ranch when we moved in, I had a dream that, I was like in this post-apocalyptic world. Because now I'm an adult, I could kind of describe it better. As a kid, I don't know what I was looking at. And mind you, Tony, I haven't seen, I haven't really seen any movies, like none of this stuff. Like I haven't seen none of this on TV or nothing. So when I saw this stuff, it was for the first time. So I'm on this post-apocalyptic little, you know, property, and it looks like a theater, but not like a movie theater, but like a theater where they do plays. So we're at this movie theater where they do plays, and it's all broken down. There's no roof over it. All there is the stage and a bunch of messed up chairs, and there's a bunch of overgrown vegetation all around it. Kind of like I Am Legend kind of looking thing. Everything's all overgrown, and the seats are all messed up. And I remember everything being red. The seats were red. The platform was red. There was a backdrop that was red, and the big curtains all messed up. And I'm seeing this dream as like a drone kind of footage, like just kind of flying around it, looking at it. And all of a sudden, it shows like this treehouse, right? And I've never seen a treehouse before, ever on TV, cartoon, nothing. But in this dream, I'm seeing a treehouse for the first time. And it's a big tree with a, wooden treehouse, like made of wood. And there's like a, staircase that goes up. And I remember the dream just shoots into me going up the stairs. It's nighttime. And, this tree is in this movie theater area, the theater play area. So I'm living on an abandoned theater with a treehouse. And in the dream, I remember walking upstairs and my mom and dad are asleep. And I just remember, getting to the covers and going to bed with them. And then all of a sudden, I hear big footsteps coming up the stairs, and the door just gets kicked down, right? And all you see is whatever this thing was, it was really big. So when it went in, its head went under the door, and its big red eyes and the big claws started coming out, and it just went under the door, and it stood up inside the treehouse. And it was a massive, like, wolf man, like a werewolf. And I've never seen a werewolf ever, no movie, no cartoons, nothing at this time. We didn't have, movies like that or a bunch of cable back then, we were poor. We don't have, so I don't know what any of this was. I didn't watch stuff. So I saw a werewolf for the first time in a dream, and this thing was coming at me and growling at me. Then it grabbed me by the leg, and then I woke up. So I thought that was something I would want to share with you, because mind you, I haven't seen none of this stuff on TV before or read a book about it or anything. So that was a dream that I had the first week at the ranch when I was there, and it tripped me out. So no, go ahead.
I want you to tell your story, but this is just
no. Go ahead.
I feel like it relates back to what you experienced in the apartment. So listen, the other realm. I don't know how you guys feel about this stuff, but there are other realms where these things exist, and they do come through, through the dream state. And I just found a doctor just last week that talks about this. He talks about the mind being a portal to another realm. And I just find this really interesting, because I had a guy on, he's here in Tennessee where I live, and he had a dream about a werewolf. And then that werewolf about a week later appears before him in this realm, before him and his son. And so there's this co-relationship, parallel universe, literally paralleling ours, and it crosses over in and out. And what you experience in the apartment might have more to do with that dream you experienced shortly after you moved on to the ranch than what you realized. More than I can even probably fathom. I had to say it, man.
No,
all right, I'm done. Go ahead.
No, it's just, no, man. That's why we're here. So, because I like to hear your opinions too. And the first thing when you said the portal in the mirror makes sense. It's a portal for sure. But so let's fast forward. I have a little list of all of. There's so many things that I write it down to make sure. So so after the werewolf dream, okay. So then one of the first sleep paralysis I had, I was about 14 or 15, I would say. I had some little things happening between here and there. So, really quick, before we get to that, remember my father said that we were hear that, that screeching thing that sounded like a chicken and a woman at the same time. So I was about 10 or 11 years old. We had a big clay field in the backyard of the ranch. And one of the nights when we heard that thing, me and my cousin went out to play outside. And I remember seeing these big, massive feet print outside. This is a random question, but just the only way I could describe it. Tony, you ever seen Dragon Ball Z? The show, it's a cartoon, it's an anime.
I haven't seen it. I know what you're talking about, though.
So there's like this creature in the show. He's called Frieza. So that maybe the audience who would watch this would get what I'm saying. So this character named Frieza in the show, he's like a reptilian looking thing with a tail. And anyway, his feet are big 3 feet like this and a big toe in the back. And that's exactly what I saw in the backyard, but it was like this big, like huge, huge feet. If you're Googling it, look up Frieza, Frieza. So but the feet look just like that. Big, massive feet, made no sense. And mind you, this is clay. So when you step on clay, it's really hard to make a footprint like that. Yeah. You would have to someone either went out there with with some kind of molding thing, which probably wouldn't happen because the dogs would have alerted us because the dogs roam free. So whatever was out there, I connected to that monster looking thing. Because when I saw those feet print, I'm like, it has to be this thing. Either that, we have ostriches out there because, that's what it looked like. It looked like an ostrich, but with thicker toes, like big, thick toes. So that was something I wanted to share. But let's get into this sleep paralysis because this is pretty crazy. This is something that changed my life and it made me believe in Jesus. So after this, I was 100% Jesus. And so I'm going to connect this to my grandfather because I think this is why it happened. So my grandfather was in the hospital. He was having, I think it was a back surgery or was it heart surgery, Dad? What was it? Something, right? He had some kind of surgery that was really risky.
I think it was back. It might have been a stent.
Yeah, something like that. I just remember it was one of those surgeries where it could go bad. And everybody was at the hospital to go visit him, before his surgery and be there after his surgery. And in school, I was a very unpopular kid. So for the first time, I think I was a freshman in high school. I got invited to a party for the first time ever. So I was like, man, I'm finally getting, some friends. I want to go to this. So it was on Christmas Eve. I got invited to this party. And my grandfather was in the hospital on Christmas Eve, and his birthday happens to be on Christmas too, which is another big, coincidence. And so instead of going to visit my grandfather, I'm like, I'm going to go to this party because, I'd never get invited. I want to be cool. I want to be accepted, So I go to this party and I get drunk for the first time. Okay. I get drunk, get all wasted. And no one's at the ranch. This is like the first time I've ever stayed at the ranch by myself because everybody was at the hospital. Like they gave me the key to the house. Like I've never had a house key before. So I remember that really clearly. So I get to the ranch, open the door and I'm just completely lit. Like I've just drank way too much. And it's just my first time drinking. And I remember just at the ranch, I didn't have my own room. We had like 2 big living rooms though. So we kind of made that living room into my room. And that's where I would sleep. And I slept on a little cot, Tony, those little cheap cots. It's like a chair. You can bend it into a bed. It goes, yeah. So it was a really cheap one. It probably weighed about 40 pounds. You can just pick it up and throw it. So I'm sleeping on it. And the morning comes and I remember, where my feet are at, something is, so mind you, I'm sleeping on it in a couch form. I don't have it in the bed form. It's in the couch thing. So I'm sleeping on it with my face against the back of the couch. So my face is stuffed into the back and my back would be facing the living room to the front door. So I remember where my feet are at on the cot, it gets lifted up maybe about 3 feet like this and then gets dropped. Boom. And I'm just like, I kind of wake up. I'm like, so in my head, the first thing I think is number one, I have a hangover. And just for the first time I have a hangover, my head is just blistering, right? And first thing I do is yell and I'm screaming at my cousins because I'm assuming my cousins are here like they are every Christmas to open presents, waking me up. We don't open presents. Everybody's woken up. So I just remember saying, man, my cousin Sean, leave me alone. I'm sleeping. I don't feel good. No one responds. I'm just ignoring it. My face is in the couch so I don't see what's behind me. And then it gets picked up again about, almost, 180 and I can feel my weight moving, like falling off and bam, it gets dropped again. And I get really mad. I said, I get up and I turn myself over and I'm about to yell at my cousin. But once I turn over, I become magnetized. Boom. Like I'm just completely cannot move. And something throws me off of the cot and I land on my back on the floor and I'm still magnetized, right? So I felt something lift me up and just throw me. It wasn't gently, just pick me up, drop me. And I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm just like freaking out. Like, what the heck is happening? At this point, I've seen a couple horror movies and every horror movie is going through my head right now. What's going on? Like, it was The Exorcist or something. So when that's happening, I'm laying on my back and the front door is like in this direction and I can just kind of look this way. And I just, the front door started shaking. Boom, 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 started shaking like really fast. And then it stopped shaking. Then I heard big feet print walking towards me. It was in the house. Okay. It's just boom, boom. And I'm looking over my eyes and I'm just like so terrified. I remember the tears were rolling down and I can hear it growling as it gets closer. And then it's like, I feel like it's here now, like standing up where my feet are at, looking over me. And I just feel this big pressure on my wrist, like a big hands are holding me. And I look down, I could barely look. And it was like the invisible man was holding my wrist because I couldn't see a physical creature, but I can see that my wrists were indented as if something was holding me, like an invisible force was holding me. And I'm just, at this point, I am crying. Like I can't like scream or yell, but I just remember the tears are running down. I'm just in fear and I can feel this thing now. Right here, and it's growling at me, and I can feel the breath, and it's like hot breath, and it smelled like rotten eggs and sulfur, like straight sulfur, rotten eggs, what it smelled like. So this probably lasted for about a minute, the whole thing, from maybe a minute and a half, from me getting thrown off the bed to the door shaking this thing on me, maybe 2 minutes max, but it felt like it was a year, this whole experience. So in my head, I'm just had these random thoughts like, man, what's going on? Like, please leave me alone, blah, 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 please go away. And I just had a random thought to say, Jesus, please help me. And when I said that, the thing like made this ugly noise, like an ugly shriek, and screamed. And the front door went boom, 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 boom again. So to me, the thing left. Not even, like, as soon as it left, I jolted out because I was trying to get up. So my muscles just boom, it brought me up right away. And when I got up, I could finally breathe better and then I could actually cry. And I was just freaking out. And like not even 10 seconds go by, Tony. And everybody from the hospital, my whole family gets home from the hospital with my grandfather. As soon as they get home, my grandma's the first one who opens the door and she sees me crying and she's like, what's wrong? I told her what happened. And my grandma's like a really old school Christian. And she just kind of basically told me that I deserved it because I didn't go visit my grandpa. So, and I was like, you're not lying either. So that was the first, like supernatural experience where I actually got physically thrown and tossed around. So that was the first one. That was just one.
That was the first one. He says that's that was the genesis of the weirdness. So, let me ask you this. Let me just make some commenting on this because I'm not somebody that really kind of goes to. I have a lot of reservations of saying that everything's spiritual or, it's a spiritual because of something you did or whatever, right? But I want to ask Dominic a question here. At this time when this happened to him, where were you in your faith?
Man, I think I was lukewarm.
Okay.
I thinking back now, I think I was, because I was getting more into at this time, Tony, with these experiences of UFOs we saw, and I didn't, just really quickly, we were going to Walmart one night with my mom and Lionel. He was a little kid, and he pointed out a UFO. It was a green light, and this thing was just floating there. I mean, it didn't look real, and there were no drones back in the 90s. And this thing was sitting over a wash, over a storm channel. He pointed it out. Lionel points it out. I pulled over. I'm saying, you know what? I'm gonna get close to this thing. So I back up and I start heading down the street going east, and this thing went west. I turned around, went west, and it goes east. It was playing a game. And then that night, the next morning, my mom asked me, did you guys see anything last night? So what do you mean? She says, well, I heard the ladder. Hit the rooftop, and I heard you guys walking up there on the roof last night. I said, no, that wasn't us. So my point is I was getting more into the New Age stuff. I was getting to the UFO stuff, and I was really getting into it, man. And I don't know if this all this weirdness was because of that.
I mean, it certainly could B. I asked the question because so Lionel was home by himself when that happened, and I've changed a lot since I started the show. You know, I think a lot about things differently, and I'm starting to really put a lot of weight, and maybe it's because I'm a dad now myself, but I'm putting a lot of weight into me as the the head of my household and being a spiritual leader. And if I'm not doing the right thing and protecting my household, what does that mean for my household, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like one, you being lukewarm could leave a door cracked open for
Absolutely.
attacks, right? And on top of it, you weren't even there to get through. You weren't physically there. And then Lionel gets drunk for the first time, which leaves a literal open door
Yes. Yep.
for demonic activity in your life. And so I feel like there was a domino effect here that led to that experience. And it's very interesting how, Lionel, you had it lifting your legs up, and Dom, you had that sleep paralysis experience where it felt like your legs were going up towards the ceiling. I don't know if it was the same entity or what, but I do know it's the same bloodline. And it's very interesting you both experienced that, because I don't hear that very often to begin with. I don't know if I ever have heard somebody talk about their sleep paralysis experience and how it felt like they were being pulled up to the ceiling by their legs. And then I got a father-son duo saying the same thing.
Dude,
I find it very
wild.
Interesting.
Dude, it was wild, man.
Yeah.
It was wild. I mean, I felt like I was trying to grab onto the carpet or something, man. I mean, it was scary, man. Being lifted feet forward into the air.
Was that physical for you, or was it like more on a spiritual plane?
I don't know, man. It felt physical to me, man.
Wow. So it felt physical to you, and Lionel, you know.
100%. I was awake. I mean, people, were you asleep? No, I was not asleep. I was awake. I was wide awake, man. So yeah, I even had little bruises on my arm the next day. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I want to ask you before you move on to another one is that you said that it lifted you up and threw you on the floor essentially.
Yeah.
When it did that, now you mentioned about seeing the prints on your hand on your arm.
Yeah.
When you were lifted up, did it feel like almost as if somebody like scooped you up with their hands, or did it feel almost like there was just like a force lifting you up? You know what I mean? Like
a force.
Like a force. So
like
it's not
I
like
was
you felt
like my body
or anything.
My body was evenly picked up. Like it didn't feel like someone had my legs and my head, and my body was, my weight was in the middle. I felt like something like a board picked me up evenly, floated me off the couch and just dropped me, like just let me drop, boom, like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy, man. I'm telling you, it's crazy stuff. So yeah, that was the first one. And so let me go on this list. So then, in between that, there's a lot of little things I can tell. I'll just give a couple of them to get to the next good one. So I remember in our backyard, we had a mound, like a burial mound, like where the giants are supposedly at. Now that I'm older now and I know a lot about this, we literally had like what could have possibly been a giant burial mound. We had a big hill in the backyard, a perfect one. And I remember at night sometimes I go out there and I would see these little orbs, like the color of the rainbow, red one, yellow one, purple one, blue one, just all floating in a little circle. And I could see these things from like 100 yards away, even though it was far away. You could still see them flying in a little circle. And I was like, something in my heart told me not to go over there. But one day I got kind of close, say it was about maybe 50 feet away from it, and it's on a hill. So I'm looking at top, and as they would go in a circle, I could see like 2 or 3 at a time. There's probably about 5 or 6 of them, but at the angle I was at, I could only see them in a circle, 2 or 3 at a time. And I looked at it closely, and there was like these little, I don't know, the best way I can describe is little fairies inside the orb, and you look little humans with little wings, and they're just kind of, and they're not flapping their wings, they're just in the orb, and they're just kind of like little statues. They weren't really moving too much. They're just kind of just, I mean, that's what I saw. So I saw, stuff like that. I also saw some owls too out there, some weird stuff. But to fast forward to the next thing is that I remember that me and my dad, I forgot where we were going, but we were going somewhere, and I believe he had a Corvette at the time and had a T-top so you can see, straight up into the sky. And I remember we were going somewhere and we look up and there's a massive, like I said, what's that? I said, what the heck is that? There's a massive triangle spaceship looking thing, UFO, huge, look like a boomerang though. I'm more concerned like a boomerang. And my dad looks up at it, and right away, he's all into the alien stuff. He knew what it was. I just thought it was a weird plane, but it was huge. So we get on the freeway and we're chasing this thing, and it just looked massive. Like the thing had been about the size of a football field, and it wasn't just us that saw it. Other people were pulling over and looking at it too. It was on the 10 freeway going west. And my dad's chasing this thing in the car because, he wants to, he's all, into this stuff. At the time, Art Bell was very popular on the radio. So, our thing was, let's get a picture of this thing and let's send it to him. So anyways, my dad's driving the car and I'm following it with my eye, and this thing, at one point we got directly under it and we're looking up, and I could, I even drew a picture perfect what it looked like. So on the bottom of it, there had a light on each, on the point, 3 points of it, there's a light on each one. And they're like white lights, and the center was like this green glow. But you know those things. I don't know what they're called, but they're like a little globe, and they have like that plasma, and you put your finger on it, and it kind of just goes where your finger's at. It looked like that, but green, but green and purple. And then so it was in the middle, and each point, each light that the 3 points were all shooting like this green laser to like kind of, I guess, charge it. I don't know how to explain it, but it looked like that weird plasma thing in the middle, 3 lights, and there was 3 energy lasers like kind of charging it up. So anyways, this thing was huge, and it was going very slow, and all of a sudden it just stopped, and it just went bam, just shot towards LA, no noise, nothing, just flew, like it just moved. And not even like a few minutes, not even like 30 seconds later, we see these fighter jets go by, and these 2 big black double helicopters, like those presidential ones, going that way. And I just remember that we sent it to Art Bell, and then it wasn't like 300 people saw this thing that reported it. And I think my dad called the Air Force, or what is it called, the airspace, and I guess what did they say? They said they got a lot of calls or something like that. But a lot of people saw it.
Yeah, they didn't really say much about it, but there was a black van parked down the street for probably on and off for a few months with a bunch of antennas on it. What was that about?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of strange stuff, because I called 29 Palms Marine Base. Hey, I saw a UFO, this big triangle, and I called the Palm Springs airport, and for several months there was a black SUV down the street with a bunch of antennas.
Yeah. So
how far were you from 29 Palms?
Well, in a straight line,
a few miles. Probably
about 15 miles in a straight line.
Wow.
All right there.
I think that there's so many UFO there's just so many UFO sightings out there in that area that they got to be doing something out there, man.
Of course.
They got to be, and it might be the perfect that base might be a strategic location where they strategically placed it there because of the weird things that already happened in the area. Because obviously Joshua Tree's there. And, we've talked about Joshua Tree a lot on the show in the last year. But there's a real element of cults and witchcraft and the thinning of the veil in that area that it might be a perfect location to conduct experiments with futuristic technology under the guise and disguise of paranormal activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I believe so.
A lot of weird stuff out there.
With all the sightings, the sightings that even after selling the ranch, hereafter, I videoed armadas of these things, like 20 of them, just in the sky, just these orange fiery orbs in the sky that just when you're videoing them in night vision and night color, and they black out, then you got to switch the frequency to black and white night vision, and guess what? They're still there. You're just not picking up on color. You get that. I filmed something out here about 5 years ago that was shaped like a bell, rocking back and forth, and you can see it in the picture when you freeze frame it. You can take a picture of it, and this thing just rocking back and forth, and it's coming down. It's not coming down yet, but it's moving in a clockwise like this, like it's looking for something, and then it starts coming down, and then the source was red at the bottom, the power source, I guess, and that turns to a pale yellow eventually. Then it goes completely black with two little dots in the bottom of it, and it starts coming down clockwise. It comes out in the desert, lands out in the desert somewhere. So I go out there with the night vision like an idiot by myself. I start scanning the desert where I feel it came down, and I got this really nefarious feeling come over me. And I just got out of there, man. I mean, I wanted to see what this thing was, where it landed. And something just told me, go, get out. And I have that on video. And then the other video I think you saw, Tony, was this orb that was showing up a lot. It was reddish orange. One night I saw it coming again. I grabbed the night vision, and you can see it. It's like a gray sphere with the orange glow or red glow around it, and something excuse me, something flashes before it, like underneath it. I don't know if it's another craft on fire or if it's some kind of entity, but something flashes right underneath it. And when you go frame by frame, it looks like it could be something disintegrating, or I don't know, maybe some kind of entity. I don't know. But a lot of weird stuff has happened out here.
Yeah. No, well, definitely, definitely. It sounds like it. You guys have had a lot of experiences, and so has a lot of other people. Lionel, where do we go next with your experiences, man?
Yeah. I want to keep going. Trying to interrupt Dominic. I got a lot to cover. Let me see. So the next one I had it wasn't even at the ranch. It was in LA. This is after we sold he sold the ranch. I was probably about 19. I think I was 19. And this was like, at this point, I haven't had any crazy experiences for like 4 or 5 years. I'm like, oh, finally, the devil's gone. You know what I mean? I started believing in Jesus more. This thing's gone. Don't have to worry about this stuff no more. So it was about a cool 3-4 years of no drama from these things, whatever the heck they are. So, I don't know if you heard of that game called Halo. Yeah, you ever Halo? So I just remember Halo specifically because I remember Halo 2 had came out, and I went to Best Buy. It's in Culver City. And I'm going to get the new Halo. I'm going to go home. I'm going to game it, So I get home, throw the game in, and I'm playing it. It's like 3 in the morning, right? I'm playing it all night. And I remember Dominic had these dogs, these little miniature pinchers, and they just had a litter, like 10 of them or something, right? So I'm playing this game, and I'm sitting on the bed, right? I'm playing the game, and all of a sudden the bed starts vibrating, like vibrating, like boom, 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 like moving, like there's a machine in it or something, like a broken massage bed, but worse. And I'm sitting playing this game, and the bed is vibrating, and my brain is telling me the dogs are just under the bed playing, even though that's what my brain wanted me to believe to not, because the first thing I thought was, is this monster thing's back. And I knew it wasn't the dogs under the bed, because those little puppies, they ain't going to move the whole bed that way. You know what I mean? But my mind wanted me to believe that there were the dogs under the bed. And I just remember, but I'm frozen. I'm not even playing the game, just holding the remote. And I just remember saying, "You dumb dogs, get out of under the bed." I'm screaming like at 3 a.m. And then at the time, my stepmom comes in the door. I wake her up. "What are you yelling about?" I'll get these dogs out of under the bed. They're shaking the bed. And she's like, "All the dogs are outside. What are you talking about?" And then it just confirmed that this thing was back, and my heart just dropped. I just felt my blood leave my face. I was like, oh my God, here we go again, right? So I did not sleep in that room ever. We probably stayed there for like 3-4 months after that. We moved to Redondo Beach, but that was when it started all over again, right? So I had that experience. So then after that, I didn't really have too many things happen again, but we probably moved out of there. Like, how long we lived there for? Like 3-4 years, maybe 5 years max. So we lived in LA for a little bit. So when we moved back out to here, because we came back out here, and at the time, I had a fiance at the time, and I remember when we broke up, I went through this really bad depression, right? And I couldn't sleep. I just could not sleep. I just kept thinking about her, like, what is she doing? Can't get a hold of her, what is she doing? I just worried about her, just wanted to be back with her, wanted to make it work. But I remember I had to go to the doctors and get sleeping pills, Ambien. And they gave me, these pills to sleep. And I just remember I just couldn't sleep on my bed for some reason. There's like something going on that was, mentally messing me up, that I couldn't sleep on the bed. So I had a big walk-in closet at my apartment that I had at my own apartment. I had a big walk-in closet. And I just made a bed in the closet. I have no idea why I did that. It's a weird move. For some reason that night, I wanted to make a bed in the closet on the floor and sleep in there. And I remember in the middle of the night, something wakes me up. And just kind of like Dominic's story, it's like sleep paralysis. I wake up and I'm frozen. I'm looking forward and there's a portal, like a swirl, and it's all black and it's going like this, like a portal, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
In the closet?
So the walk-in closet's like this. It's straight. It's a straight closet, and my feet are facing the opening of the closet and my head is against the back of the closet. And the portal's right where the door's at, where the exit would be at to go to my bedroom. And it's just opening bigger. And then my feet start getting pulled first into the portal. And I have the blanket on, and the blanket is rolling off me too. And I'm freaking out, right? And I start praying, like 10 seconds I'm praying. And then once I started praying and I said, Jesus, please help me, the portal closed and my feet dropped, and like my butt and my feet were in the air. My back was the only thing touching the ground at this point. And when I said that, I dropped, and I wanted to believe it was a dream, but it wasn't, because I looked down, the blanket was completely off of me, so it confirmed what happened. When you're asleep, you're not going to take the whole blanket off you. What happened. And I'm like, man, here we go again, right? There's all this stuff. So the next stories I'm going to tell you all happened at this apartment, right? So I say about 2 weeks later, I'm sleeping again on the bed now, okay? And on the right of me, I have this window that goes outside. And I remember at the time, my grandfather had already passed away, the one that was in the hospital on Christmas morning. He had passed away maybe like 4 or 5 years at this point. And I remember waking up, something woke me up, sleep paralysis again. I can look over and my grandfather is standing right next to my bed. It looked just like him, but young, like 25 years old. And I've never seen him at that age before, not even in a picture. So, but I knew it was him because it looked just like him. And I remember he was wearing a red plaid shirt, like a lumberjack one, big handlebar mustache. And he was just looking at me, but it was like an evil, it would look like him, but it wasn't him. I just felt pure demonic energy from this thing. And it was like right here looking over me, and I'm looking at him like, what the heck is going on? And the window right there, I see these 2 portals again, these little black swirls open up, and these big gray alien bulb heads just come out, and they're both looking at me like gray aliens, like big eyes. Like they look different from the Jiggly man. They had like, their eyes were so big, it made up most shape of their head. And they're just looking at me, and I was freaking out, and they're like trying to come out of that portal. And I started praying, and the portal closed up, and they kind of just, the swirl, when the swirl closed up, they turned into a swirl too and went away. And my grandfather just kind of like disintegrated, right? So that was the other one. And I'm thinking all this is happening because I'm going through like this depression, it was hard for me to pay the bills on my own, because, we were sharing the bills. So I was like going through all this, and we broke up. So I think it was something to do with that. And I also started drinking a lot of the time because I was very depressed. And I say about 3 months after that, so I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and in the other bedroom, I turned it into like a computer room, a gaming room. So I'll just hang out in there sometimes. And I end up falling asleep in that room. And then again, I get sleep paralysis. And I'm on my back, and the door's right here. And I feel something coming down the hallway. There's a hallway. And this is the weirdest one of all of them. It's not as intense as me getting thrown off the bed, but it was the weirdest one. There's a box that I see. So imagine the door's open to the room, to the hallway, and I just see a box just come to the middle of the hallway to come into my room, and it just stops. It's like a box floating. It'd probably be about the size of a little purse or something. And it looked like it was made of stone, like a green granite looking stone. And this little box just comes floating at me, bro. I don't know like how to explain this, but it's a little box, like a cube. It starts floating, and it's coming towards me. So it's coming like this way. And then I'm laying on my back, and as it's getting closer, I can see something under it, like an impression coming out, and I can see it moving. And as I'm looking at it, there's like a mouth and a face on the bottom of it, like with big teeth, like big block teeth. And once it gets over me, it's like a face there's a face in the box and it's trying to like bite me. And it looked like, the best way I can describe it is, you ever play Super Mario Brothers? The original one?
Yeah.
You know those big blocks that they just go up and down? They have a mad face. They're made of stone. Well, the face looked like it was made of stone. It looked like it was made of the same material as this box, and it had like a little handle on it too, on the top, like a little handle. And this thing was right here, and it was like trying to come out and bite me. It kind of looked like the Super Mario Brothers and also the Thing from Fantastic Four at the same time, but it was just all green, stone color, grayish green. And it was trying to bite me. It was trying to come out, and the teeth were really big. I remember the teeth being really big and the eyes being big, and the pupils were glowing orange. And the same thing, you know, I just pray and pray and pray, and the thing started shaking, and it shot back to the living room, and it just left. Like, it just went away. And I was like, man, like, whatever's going on in my life right now, it was like some kind of spiritual battle, because I was about 26, 27 at the time already. So I'm like, you know, I already believe in God, you know, so I already know there's some kind of spiritual, you know, demonic thing like that's chasing me, you know. It's hard because it's not at the ranch. It's at the apartment. It's in LA. It's at the apartment before I moved to the ranch. So just one more before, you know, I don't want to take up all your time, you know. So right before I moved out, I remember I fell asleep in the living room of my same apartment. And I woke up and I started hearing, I didn't even fall asleep. I was watching TV, and all of a sudden my ears started ringing really loud. And it was so loud I couldn't hear for like 10 seconds. I was freaking out, like, well, am I losing my hearing? And then the ringing went away. And I remember like just being like, what the heck is going on? I felt like this evil in the room, like a heavy energy of just evil. And then in my ear, I hear something growling at me, and it says this, like, I remember to this day, it kept saying, Ra-va-ba, Ra-va-ba, Ra, and it kept getting louder in my ear. It said Ra-va-ba, Ra-va-ba, over and over. And I started, like, I couldn't move. Like, I wasn't paralyzed. I could move, but I was so scared I didn't want to move. So like, it finally just went away, and I just stood up and I said, I got to move out of here. I ended up moving out of there like a month after that. So that was one of the most recent ones I've had, I would say. That was very intense. I have other things happen up until now, but that was a very intense one that I had. So
that's all right. So what's in the box? When you said, I was like, man, what's in that box? So I just looked up here, and this is actually a Facebook post. I literally haven't had a chance to read this, but I'm seeing it in this post. Sharavana Bava. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have no idea, but it's similar to what you were just talking about. I think there's something to what it was saying. So Ra-va-ba, right?
Yeah, Ra-va-ba, yeah, like that.
Ra-va-ba. I'm gonna look into that, and if anybody else that's listening right now knows anything about what he just said, I'd be very interested, because and I'm sure he would be too, because it might connect dots for sure. That is wild. So you both share similarities in your experiences, especially when it comes to the sleep paralysis and the being lifted. And I wonder, like, is it? I don't know if it's the ranch or not. I just don't know. Like, it seems like it's more. It might be more you guys than it is a geographical location. The geographical location might enhance what is already pre-existing, but it may not be the ranch. I don't know. Do you guys feel like it's more the bloodline than it is, you know, where you lived?
Dominic, what do you think?
I think the bloodline has something to do with it, because going down to all the stories that have been passed down, you know, through me, through my grandparents and great grandparents. And I think, yes, the ranch probably did enhance it. I think the ranch is charged. I think there's something there. I think, when you see scorched earth and you find, I'll just say, bones and giant owls, yeah. I think it is a bloodline thing. I think, in my opinion, a lot of instances where you hear a lot of families who have these experiences, if it's sleep paralysis or if it's extraterrestrial abductions, it all goes down the family line. So yeah, I do think it's a family line thing too.
I mean, I believe it's also a family thing too, because I've had these experiences everywhere I went. Like, even I'll give you one more. It's all coming. I'm starting to get the memories. I remember where when my mom and dad had gotten divorced, when I stayed with my mom, and when she would go out with her husband at the time, they would drop me off at her friend's house, which was the two, Christina and Emilio, and then my best friend ended up being this Emilio Jr. So they would all go out, all four of them, his parents and my stepdad and my mom would go out, and it was me, Emilio, and his brother Raymond. So it was three of us. We're like 12, 13, but we're old enough to take care of ourselves until they got back home. So I remember that night, like three of Emilio's cousins came over. They're a little smaller than us, and we're playing hide and seek in their house. They had a house. And I remember, and I saw, and I didn't just see this, my friend Emilio and his little brother Raymond saw it. We got freaked out. So we're hiding in the room, right, in this one of the rooms, and same kind of setup. There's, we're in the room, we're looking towards the door, and there's a hallway. And the hallway, you can only go to the back, and the back, there's the master bedroom, his parents' room. So, you go to the back, it's a dead end, or you can go to the room. But either way, to get out to the front door, you have to, walk all the way out from the hallway to the front. So there's no way to circle around the hallway. I'm just trying to give you an idea to tell you how weird this was. So we're playing hide and seek, and one of the kids finds the other kid. But in this game, you have to tag. When you find him, you have to tag him, like touch him, for it to actually count. So we hear one of the little kids, he's like laughing, and then the other kid's like, I found you, I'm going to get you. So the kid runs by, right? The little kid, he runs I'm looking at it, through the room in the hallway. The kid runs by, boom, 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 boom. And the other kid runs by chasing him. Not even 3 seconds later, me and the two other, my friends, we saw them run by again this way. Like, it's impossible. They went this way, and then again, like two clones ran right behind them, but they were laughing. These two other ones were laughing like sadistically, like, and I was like, but they look different too. They look like dark figures, but like deformed. And I was like, did you see that? I was like, yeah, we saw that. So we ran out, like, what are you guys doing? Who else is here? There's no one here. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, we just saw two other people run. We're like, were you guys playing a game? No. And then that really scared us, because there was so just two people ran by, and then two more copies of deformed version ran right behind them. So that was something that I saw with two of my friends. So I don't know if it's me and I'm bringing this stuff over and they can see it too, or it's just coincidence that day.
Yeah. I saw something similar to that, only it wasn't people, it was a cat. And it happened here while I was at work at the studio here. Oh, wow. I was in my office next door here, and I saw a cat walk by my window. And then just like a few seconds later, same cat walked by my window. And I'm just like, yeah, what? Weird. Like, yeah. I'm like,
it's weird.
Like,
Wow.
How does that happen? Like, I was like, this is weird. And I know what cat it is because I see the cat every day. Every day the cat walks the same path, same day, or same time of day. So it's like a routine for the cat.
Did you guys hear that? Was that you?
I did. Oh. No, it wasn't me.
That was weird. That's like a growl, right?
Yeah. I assumed it was you.
Bro, I did not do that. I was waiting for you to, like, you press the button or something. Bro, I heard that. That was weird. You didn't hear that? Did you hear that, Dominic? You didn't hear that? Wow, that's weird, Tony. That's weird.
Yeah. I heard it. I assumed it was like
what's the timestamp on that? We got to listen to that later. 136. Probably happened at 136. That's crazy, man. Yeah. That's wild, bro. That's scary, man. We all heard that.
Yeah, well, Jack's gonna be editing this, so he'll be able to listen back and see what's what. But
wow.
I think on this program here that we're recording on, it's recording all our vocals on separate channels, so we'll be able to hear which channel it actually came from.
Oh God!
What'll be interesting is if it came through every channel at the same time. That would be interesting.
Oh my God!
That should be impossible.
It was like, right? It sounded like a big cat, and you're telling a cat story. I don't know.
Yeah, well, when I heard it, so you were talking about when you were playing Halo, which, by the way, I guess you and I are probably around the same age, because if you said you were about 19 in 2004, when
I'm 35. Yeah, I'm 35.
Oh, you're
right
35. Okay, so I'm 38, so we're around the same age. So when you were talking about playing Halo and how you thought it was the dogs, but like you knew it wasn't.
I know.
Dogs,
I
like
just
your
wanted
brain,
to believe it was a dog. Yeah.
That's exactly what just happened with me. Like when you were talking, my brain said those are brake retarders for a truck. You know, like that's what it sounded like. Whoa, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's what my brain registered as. I didn't even think about it. That's what I thought it would be. And then I thought it came from your end, and that's why I didn't care.
I thought you were just doing a little button, you know, those little roadcaster things. I was like, that's a trick.
No.
Wow.
No.
I rebuke you. I rebuke it.
It wouldn't be the first time that something came through on the show. I'll never forget the time that the most personal it ever got was episode, I don't know, 30 something, 40 something. I don't remember what it was, to be honest with you. But I remember I called it the unwanted roommate. And just as the guy was getting ready to start describing the demon he saw in the hallway, the line goes dead. We get disconnected. This happened live for my patrons. My patrons used to, before I had memberships, the only deal I offered was for them to watch interviews live while I did them, so that they basically saw everything firsthand. So they saw this happen. The line goes dead. We reestablish the connection, and within the first 10 seconds, you hear a whisper come through that we thought in the moment it said, "Get Tony." But then listening back, it sounded more like "Get Tori" to me. But maybe it's just my ears trying to, say it's not Tony. But yeah, if anybody wants, I don't remember the number, but I remember I called it the unwanted roommate. And if you're listening on the Confessionals app, it's not there yet. I haven't uploaded. We haven't uploaded back that far in the archive yet. It takes a lot of time, so we're working on it. But it's sometimes things happen. Like even I think I called it knock 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 or something like that. I forget what I called the episode, but it was like 3 knocks. The guy was talking about the knocks that he had experienced, and then like clockwork, it's just like that.
Wow.
And I was like, "Whoa!" I said, "Did you do that?" And he's like, "Do what?" And I'm like, "You didn't hear that knocking?" And he's like, "No." And we stopped it. We went back and we listened back to it, and it was on recording, the knocking. And I was like, "Dang, man!"
Dude, that's wild.
So,
man.
yeah, I mean, sometimes you get responses while you talk about this stuff. For me, I'm just numb to it. It's just like whatever.
Another day, just another day for Tony.
Yeah.
It's another day in the office, man. Like it is what it is.
Fun stuff. A bunch of demons popping in and out.
Yeah, maybe that's why I moved my office from my house to like a 30-minute ride from my house.
Yeah, keep all that. Keep it trapped right there. Put some salt around the door. Keep it stuck.
Yeah, I have a rock in my office that was given to me. It was brought to me by the Outcast Paranormal guys. They grabbed the rock off the property of the Conjuring house, and apparently, like when people take things like from the property like that, paranormal activity follows them. And so they bring it in the studio. They tell me the story, and then they put the rock on the table, and they're like, "That's for you." And I was like, "Guys," but nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. In fact, I think we've had less paranormal activity here since we've had it. So maybe it's having the reverse effect, and it fears me because it knows I'm with God. So it's like, oh, we ain't messing with this guy. Yeah, we're just gonna backtrack a little bit and lay low. You better lay low.
Bro, that's crazy, man.
But,
I think all this stuff is interesting. I think it's a good thing. I always take it as a compliment when a demon wants to come in and start some stuff. Like I said, like you said, you, me, Dominic, we're all charged by Jesus some way. So, they don't attack just anybody.
I think it still happens more. It happens more when you get into this space, when you get into talking about these things and you bring it to the public, other people's experiences. Because, dude, I'll tell you what, even to this day, I still hear growling noises in my ear. And I just, be gone, you coward, in Jesus' name. That's what I say. Get out of here in Jesus' name. because I knew this kind of stuff was going to start happening once we started down this rabbit hole. Because they don't like that, Tony. They don't like you talking about Christ and tying it into all these strange things that people see and are experiencing. So I knew this was going to happen, but this growling sound, but no giant screech owls, no giant monsters outside the house anymore. It's just now it's for me it's the growling sound now. And what's really strange, when Lionel brought up that he saw my dad when he was younger, my daughter told me, she's not talking about this. She said she had a dream. She had dreams of Dad. So, you know what? I had a dream about you. Okay. I said, what was the dream about? She says, I saw you in my dream and you were younger. And she says, I walked up to you and I said, hi, do you know who I am? And she says, I looked at her and said, no, I don't know who you are. But it was a younger me, but it was like like a evil version of me.
Remind me of that movie, Us. What's that movie called, Us? Well, there's like a clone of an evil version of everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That came out a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's really strange.
Yeah, I remember seeing that movie and I found it really interesting, but at the same time, I was like, if I watch that, I'm gonna get really, really scared.
It's creepy.
I chose not to watch it.
It's a creepy movie, man. It really is. It's really demonic, that movie.
Is it? Yeah, I tend to stay away from the demonic movie stuff, and I think it's because of what I do. Like I don't want to be scared to do my show, and I really think that stuff is real.
Oh yeah.
So, like I don't find it entertaining. You know, like watching a movie that's like say it's a horror movie that's about demonic stuff. Like for me, it's not. All right, for instance. This is a good example, maybe. Lionel, you mentioned about how you're a boxing trainer, right?
Mm.
So you boxed at least at some point.
Yeah.
And it was a sport. UFC, it's a sport. People bash each other's faces in for sport. That's not a sport to me. I can't even fathom why somebody would get in a ring and compete against each other to fight and then not want to kill each other afterwards. And I think it's because of my childhood that I grew up in, which there was no sport in fighting. It was fighting, and it was all the time, and it wasn't fun at all. And so the idea of it being a sport, it doesn't compute with me. And I think it's the same thing with the demonic stuff. Like, I don't watch demonic movies for entertainment because it's not entertainment for me, because it's real. That stuff's real to me. And so it's just like, I can't get past that hurdle of being like, oh, that was a good movie. No, it was not a good movie. So I don't know if that made sense.
No, it makes, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. It's, I agree. When I got into boxing, it was still awkward. It was still weird. I got into boxing because I was getting picked on in school. So I was gonna have to fight anyway. So I might as well just do it right. But, in the street, it wasn't for sport. In the street, it was just to take out the enemy. But, you got to do it as a sport, I guess, to get better at it. But you get over that. Once you do it for, a year or so, you get over all that. You don't take it personal. You get hit good. Hey, good shot, bro. Get you next week, So, yeah.
Yeah. I always wanted to learn karate when I was a kid for self-defense because of what was that movie back in the day? Karate Kid.
I was about to say, Karate Kid.
Yeah, I was like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So, anyways, getting off track here, guys. I appreciate you sharing these stories.
Thank you.
I find it really, really interesting, and there's definitely, in my mind, a connection between the two of you as far as father son and the similarities in some of these experiences. Let me ask you this parting question for both of you, really. I know you guys had experiences still to this day. Actually, I got two for you. Do you think that this is going to be something that goes on lifelong for you guys?
I do, yeah. I definitely
do. I believe so. I believe, Bible clearly says that, there's spiritual battle going on. And I think the closer you get to God, the more most people experience this type of things. If you're if you're an atheist or you don't believe at all, I mean, nothing's going to happen to you. You know, in my opinion, I think that's what Satan wants. If you don't believe, it's even better for him. But if you believe in God, this is just my opinion. They're going to come out. They're going to come after you. They're going to keep attacking. They're going to test you. They're going to test to see if they can break you. They can break that barrier between you and God. That's the way I feel about that.
I agree to that. Yep.
Yeah, I agree in the sense of even on my end of things. I think that throughout my life, I'm always going to have things happen. I don't think anything's going to happen that's going to defeat me and knock me off course. I think people who get knocked off course with the paranormal stuff are the ones that don't take it serious. Those are the ones that are just like they don't know how to frame it. For me, it's something that I don't think you're going to knock me off course because I'm expecting it. Like,
yes, yeah,
it's something that I understand is going to happen. But lastly, I want to ask about the owl real quick. So you said that the owl that you saw, I think it was in the road. It was like 5 feet tall.
Yep.
Is there any owls in California that would resemble any kind of height like that? I mean, I was trying to look it up when you were talking, and I saw one that I think they said gets up to like 26 inches, but that's not 5 feet.
No, this thing was it was shocking.
It was huge.
It was shocking. Coming back from a club once again to quickly, rehash. Coming in my Corvette, turning a corner, playing, Racer X. And this thing is right there in the middle of the road. I just stopped, like, what is this thing? It was probably, it had to be about 5 foot, and it's just staring at me, and I'm revving the engine, and I'm scared. I'm paralyzed with fear, but I know I have to get out of there. And so I start revving the engine, and I just hit it, man. I just punched it, and it just disappeared. And the rest of the story, those owls came back again. There was more of them. There's an army of them. And the owl history, if people want to look into it, the owl history goes all the way back to the Native Americans, and it ties into the giants. And they can look into that if they want to look more into the owls and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I briefly mentioned about Ward looking into that stuff too. Yeah, I mean there is a definite rich history with the owls and the symbolism there. So, anyways, guys, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chatting. Before we roll out of here, tell the people where they can find you again, real quick.
All right, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Sabbath at Midnight. We got about 48 episodes out. Yeah, you can find us on there, and we're also on YouTube and social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Sabbath at Midnight. If I missed anything, Dominic, go ahead and say it.
No, you got it all. You got it all. I run the Facebook Sabbath at Midnight podcast, and if you want to friend me, it's Sabbath at Midnight podcast friends.
There you go.